Hello and welcome to the first part of section 4 in this ITIL 4 specialist HVIT course, High Velocity IT. In this section, we're going to learn how the service provider ensures valuable investments are achieved and the contribution of valuable investments from relevant practices. We're going to know how the service provider ensures co-creation of value with the service consumer and the contribution to co-creation of value from relevant practices. Know how the service provider ensures assured conformations achieved and the contribution of assured conformance from relevant practices. Know how the service provider ensures fast development is achieved and the contribution to it from relevant practices. And lastly, know how the service provider ensures resilient operations are achieved and the contribution to it from relevant practices. So there are 5 entries here, and these are related to the 5 objectives of valuable investments, co-creation of value, assured conformance, fast development, and resilient operations. And we are going to understand how the service provider can ensure these 5 objectives and how the practices work with them. Now we're going to cover the practices in a totally different sections rather than having to mix it up here. So we're going to focus more on the techniques of these 5 objectives to achieve these 5 objectives, that is. Let's take the first one. Techniques for valuable investments. What is valuable investment? It's about identifying and justifying digital investments based on their value, costs, return on investment, and criteria of utility and warranty. For this, we also need to consider market research, product quality, and launch timings. Continual evaluation is necessary for alternative, better investments in the future. Therefore, what it means is this valuable investments objective of HVIT is about making decisions about which digital investments should be done. And also, these decisions need to be continuously evaluated because there may be new options coming up based on advancement of technology or new ways of management and other practices available for use. The justification may be based on non-profit objectives also, like competencies developed or other strategic objectives. It need not be always money-based decision to adopt a certain technology to invest in it or to create a new service and invest in it. But there could be other factors like availability of competencies or non-availability or any other strategic objectives like diversification or expansion of business, etc. However, speed of decision is important because it is HVIT. Now, there are several techniques which we will go through now. Some of these techniques may support other objectives also. For example, a valuable investment techniques could also be applied probably for fast development or resilience or other objectives. But some of them may be very unique to a specific objectives. These techniques also contribute to practices. Let's say, for example, software development and management as one practice may relate to any of these techniques. And the SVC activities of engage, plan, improve, obtain, build, deliver, support, design, and transition are also affected by these techniques. An example of continual evaluation, the second point here, could be, let's say cloud is being used. For example, basic computing services or data analytics may be used. There may be a decision to be made whether additional services from cloud are required. For example, AI and machine learning services from the cloud or some other services from the cloud. And at the bottom, we have this SVC activities are also affected by techniques. Let's say, for example, engage is one of the service value chain activities. Now in engagement, if we use an agile approach, In an agile approach, the engagement will be different. There may be more frequent engagements. Therefore, techniques may affect the engagement activity. What are the various techniques for valuable investments? Prioritization techniques like cost of delay, buy, hold, sell, or other techniques. Number two, minimum viable products and services. Number three, product or service ownership. Number four, A or B testing. These are techniques for valuable investments. Let's go one by one. The first one is prioritization techniques. There are different types of prioritization techniques like cost of delay, buy, hold, sell, and other techniques. Cost of delay. The definition of cost of delay is the benefits lost by delaying a service activity. What is the cost impact when something is delayed? That's the cost of delay. For example, should we prioritize a self-help tool for users versus should we prioritize a software deployment tool? If we delay the deployment of software, delay the software deployment tool, the cost of delay might be less as compared to deciding on the self-help tool. So that's an example of comparing the cost of delay for different investments. This may be based on business criticality of digital products and services. Prioritization may be done at a product portfolio level or at a feature level or a task level. It need not be for an overall service. It can be for a specific feature also. The cost of delay for feature number one versus feature number two. Which feature is more important from a benefit perspective to be done first? It's useful in HVIT as investments are significant and market changes rapidly. Buy, hold, sell is about deciding the best investment strategy for a product. Buy means improve an existing service product or extend it. It's not buying it from somewhere, but it's about improving an existing or expanding an existing service or product. Hold means maintain the existing service or product with the least affordable cost, meaning hopefully it doesn't have too many defects, because if it is too defective, then it may be better to sell it off, like retire it, or reduce the usage of it, or replace it completely. For example, there could be a financial asset management tool. So should we replace it as in sell, or maintain it as in hold, or improve it as in buy? There are other techniques like stacked ranking, Kano model or Kano model, net present value, ROI, return on investment, fit, feasibility, attractiveness, etc. In stacked ranking, though we don't have to know all this for the exam, a stacked ranking is, it usually happens in organizations that we force employees into specific performance ratings. Yeah, we will say that only 10 people can come in the topmost rating. We need to have about 30% of the staff in the bottommost ratings. So it's like a stacked ranking. That's the meaning of Kano model. On the other hand, is it's used a lot in product development, and it compares it relates closely to customer satisfaction. It mainly relies on the voice of the customer before the product and service features are decided. So if you look at I'm just providing some references for the Kano model. You might want to look at this kanomodel.com. And if you want to understand net present value, you can go to Investopedia. Very simple example. The next one, another technique for so prioritization was that one, and the next one is minimum viable products and services. demonstrate just enough features for an early assessment and feedback to pursue iterative and full development only if found viable. It's like doing a small portion. If it is working well, selling well, then do much more on it. This works well in volatile markets and prevents resource wastage. So by definition, an MVP, now this is a concept which was brought in by Eric Ries. He has written a book known as Lean Startup. An MVP has come from there. And he defines MVP as a product which provides maximum amount of validated learning with the least effort. The meaning of validated learning is whether a customer will purchase it. So there's a maximum chance of purchasing that product with the least effort. For example, a taxi hire or a cab hire application, software application with minimal features, we can roll it out in the market and check if it'll work in the market. If it's working well, then more features can be added, more categories of taxis can be added, different pricing models and the comfort options can be added. Yeah. But first, experimentation has to be done quickly. It's just like Amazon when they started selling books first. Yeah, Jeff Bezos, he looked at various things. He knew there was a market for online sales, but he decided on books only first. Similarly, Airbnb. Initially, Airbnb, when they founded it, the two people, both of them had difficulties to pay their rent. So what they did, in order to make some money to pay their own rent, they spared one of their rooms with one air mattress and along with breakfast. So that's why it became B&B, bed and breakfast. And the money they received from someone else paying the rent for that bed and breakfast, they used it to pay their own rent. But eventually, they expanded like anything. So initially, it was an MVP. 3 characteristics: has enough value for its use or purpose, demonstrate potential for sufficient benefit to its early adopters. We need some early adopters for the MVP who can then be retained, and we can capture more market after that, and provides feedback loop for future development. Next one, product or service ownership. This relates to the product owner role. Usually, this comes up in Agile project management or Scrum methodology. One of the roles in the Scrum approach for Agile software development. The product owner role maximizes product value, establishes, prioritizes, and communicates requirements to the development team, liaises and negotiates with various stakeholders, including consumers. This concept is highly relevant to HVIT as such environments are product oriented. It can be applied to services and service owners also. Product owners should be skilled and experienced in business analysis, have the required authority to prioritize, be legitimate due to their direct customer contact, and have time to fulfill their role. So in summary, a product owner enables a very successful customer relationship. And because of that, the investment is made worthwhile. Because they understand the customer, they can get the customer's needs from time to time. They know how to prioritize the customer's needs based on the customer's mindset. They have empathy with the customer, and they then discuss it with the product development team or the service development team, and ensure that the development team is rolling out those features which are highest priority first. And they do it in the initial iteration, and then the product owner, being in touch with the customer, knows what should go into the next iteration. So they maintain all these features in a backlog, and they keep pulling it from the backlog, and the development team then commits. They say, okay, for the first iteration, we can do your 15 user stories. And then the next one comes and they say, okay, in the next one we can do only 10 because these user stories are slightly more complicated, so we can't do 15. Because each user story has its own complexity. Some are simple, some are complex. So not all features, not all user stories have the same effort. So that's about product or service ownership, which makes the investment worthwhile because of their close connection with customers. Another one is A/B testing, A or B testing. It helps decide which version of a feature or product or service is most valuable, as HVIT is product oriented and faces time pressure. It's a limited time experiment which is performed with two groups of users and feedback is taken. There are two groups, control group and treatment group. Control group is given an old product or service version to use. The treatment group is given a newer product or service version with newer features. And what happens is one group, control group is given the old version, treatment group given the new version. They're given the product for use and feedback is taken at the end of the time period. If the first group says they are very happy with this and the second group says the new version, people say they are not happy, then the decision is made to go with the old version, not the new one. So it's about deciding A or B, which is a better investment. And the groups are done carefully. Otherwise, we don't want people who are biased to go into treatment and another group of biased people to go into control. There should be a good mix or sample of people going to those groups. Otherwise, the results may be totally incorrect. General some observations on fast development. This is about frequent, fast, and reliable creation of products and services, by which value is realized early. Smaller changes reduces the risk of disruptions, failures, errors. However, faster development means other components like service requests, provisioning, setting up access rights, mailboxes and reports. So while we have covered the valuable investments, now it is a different objective of HVIT, which is fast development. And the message here is going fast impacts other things also. Like service requests have to be processed fast. Provisioning of hardware, software have to be done faster. It's not just the development, but also other things, non-development aspects also. Faster, therefore, faster deployment should also be done, not just faster development. Therefore, change boards or review teams should meet frequently. There may be more frequent changes, more frequent deployments, and by which resiliency also improves. Rather than deploying something really major over a period of 3 months, it may be better to deploy something every day, something very small, or maybe multiple deployments every day. Application change per unit of time is usually measured in functionality, meaning how many changes were done to an application, say, in a week, could be a measure. But it's about the number of feature changes. So if you say, let's say, 50 features were changed in this application in this week, that may not be a sufficient measure. We may also have to look at what else changed in the application. The non-feature related, the non-functional, for example, better performance, better load handling, improved security, because those also have efforts associated. We got a picture here. Fast development. Fast development means changes, and let us understand the effect of the size of the change. Where to begin? Let's begin with the size of the change here. Smaller changes lead to higher frequency of changes. So if the change size is very small, we can do more changes frequently. That's the first thing. And because of higher frequency, it ends up in smaller each other. Now this one here, because of higher frequency of change, it creates a smaller backlog. Yeah. We'll come back to this. The size of the backlog bigger backlog leads to bigger changes. Bigger changes lead to lower quality. Lower quality leads to more backlog items to fix things. Higher frequency leads to small backlog, meaning we are doing things faster. Changes are faster, therefore the number of things to do or pending is reducing. If the frequency is less, more and more will accumulate, so the backlog will be bigger. And if the backlog is bigger, then we may have to do bigger changes to consume that backlog. Therefore, the change will be bigger. And once the change is big, the quality will be lowered. And lower quality means more backlog, meaning defects also add to the backlog items. Meaning when the change is bigger, this one, bigger change, the backlog items themselves may be low. Even if I have small number here, let's say I have only 5 items here, but if I do a bigger change, like combining all the 5 into one bigger change, the work quality for the change might be poorer. Because the moment we do bigger change, the work quantity will be larger. Therefore, that can decrease the quality of the change. There are a few things to connect here: size, frequency, backlog size, and quality of the change. Okay, time here.